very good evening. This is Amrita Tiwary here. Today I'm going to basically discuss on a very complicated topic which can be made very simple, but we should also know that this is a very essential topic when it comes to drawing any kind of structures or any kind of view that we generally have at the time of working on our art piece. It's called perspective. It's a very important thing to understand how we look at a particular object or a particular scenery or anything that we plan to draw and work on and produce it as our own art piece. So perspective in simple and layman's language is the angle in which we, when I say we, it means the person who is going to draw it. So the angle in which we look at a particular object. Now when I say the word object over here, it means everything that we draw. It can be a nature drawing, it can be still life objects, it can be living beings, it can be humans. Anything and everything that we draw is considered to be an object while we are drawing or sketching or painting and we want to bring out our output as a beautiful artwork. So today I'm going to just touch on the basics of perspective and how we understand that what kind of difference does the viewing from different angles and from different points of our location of being standing makes our work look different, and it also helps in making our work appear very close to a realistic view. Generally we would prefer, or when it comes to me, when I'm drawing or making a particular work, I always prefer to make it similar or closer to a realistic view rather than making it more into cartoonish or an animated kind of a world. Well, perspective is something that plays a very important role in any kind of work, be it anime, be it cartoon, be it imaginary, be it realistic, whatever and however we are doing. So today we will deal with we will try and understand just what is a perspective, how does it work in our drawing, and just the basic level of perspective maybe. We will move to the next level in my next video of it, but today we will just focus on the basic of perspective. Hope you enjoy the video and I hope you learn what I'm trying to help you out with to make your artwork look more and more better. In this document I have managed to put in some of the basic of perspective and what are the kinds of perspective, how many kinds of perspectives are there, what is an eye level and how does that differ. So to begin with, let us first understand that what are basic shapes and how it changes into 3D shapes. So if I have to take an example of basic shapes, I'm considering a 2D circle, rectangle and a triangle. Now when we add these shadows, which happens because of the presence of light, so how it changes into a 3D appearance. I will get to this in detail a little bit later in the video. So now let us understand how and what a drawing is done. Now in a drawing we have two stages. First stage is called a rough stage and second is called a refined stage. Now what is a rough stage and what is a refined stage? Now if I have to just show it over here, a rough stage is very simple wherein, so let's assume that this is my area of the page where I'm drawing, excuse my rough lines and all. Now in this place, now suppose I want to draw a basic flower vase. So I use the space and I just get a rough sketch, right? Just to get a basic shape of it, because I know that here, and then I have maybe some flowers in this area and some leaves falling from here. Now this is what I'm going to call it as a rough. Now a refined stage will be wherein we start adding details, like the proper structure given. Now if you notice, in my rough structure, in my rough stage, I just gave a structure to my entire drawing. So I know that this is how my flower vase is going to look like. Now in this stage, which is the refined stage, which is stage number 2, I'm not only darkening my lines, but also I'm making it more perfect and making it very closer to what and how my drawing is supposed to look like. So I know that this is where I gave the flowers. So we just go ahead and we make the flowers in the right position and with the right placement. So this is a very basic and a general drawing that I'm showing it over here. And now I'll also give placement and proper position to my leaves that I had given a rough structure over here. And also in the refined structure, refined stage, I will remove the extra lines, because we don't need these extra lines, so that then only we get an idea of what my flower vase looks like. So I basically get rid and remove all these extra lines that were drawn during the rough stage. Now as you can see, we more or less have a structure, and in this we also get an understanding that where the lines are going wrong, where it has to be corrected. So in your in your refined stage, you get a complete understanding of your drawing and where you want to start with your coloring. Now moving to what are the perspective tools. Now while we make our drawings, we need to also know that how many kinds of perspective tools are there. So there are basically just 3 kinds of tools. First being a picture plane, second is the horizon line, and third are the vanishing points. Now what is a picture plane and what is horizon line and what is a vanishing point? So picture plane, let's say for example, this is a complete page or a canvas or a board on whatever you are drawing. Now let's say this is a complete picture. Now I have my borders over here. I'll be taking a help of my ruler to get my borders. And once I have the borders, the area that I have inside my borders is called the picture plane. So basically the place or the area in which I will be making my drawing. I will be working on my drawing. Most of us take masking tapes also. So this place, this part becomes a part of my border, or let's say the exterior part, and the area which is inside this rectangular border, this place is called the picture plane, on which my entire drawing, sketching, painting is going to be put in. Now what is the second thing? Second thing is horizon. Now horizon is something which is in a very common way known as line of horizon or horizontal line, which we generally draw to get the position and the placement of our objects. Now the line of horizon not necessarily always will be in the center of the page. It can be at this point, it can be here, it can be here, depending on where my object is, where I am standing and looking at the object, how far is the horizon from where I am standing and viewing, and from which angle I am looking at it. Third point is the vanishing points. Now what is a vanishing point? Now this is something I always have been asked by a lot of students of mine, a lot of learners, and also from beginners, that how do we understand that that point is going to be my horizon. For example, in this one, let's say I take my horizon to be here. Now many times the question is asked that how do we decide that this is where my horizon is going to be? Well, the very simple answer to this is, where is your vanishing point? Now the answer to this question is, what is a vanishing point? So let me answer all the 3 with just one answer. That will be, assume I am standing here. Assume the person who is making the drawing is standing somewhere here. and I am going to, and as a human being we have a view of a V angle. So my viewing is going from here, and same thing, it will come from here. Let's say from my eye view, from my eye level, it comes here. Now there will be a certain level from which or beyond which I will not be able to see anything from my naked eye. Now up to a certain level, for example, take the sea beach view. I think we all have been to sea beaches sometime or the other in our life. And when we start at the seashore, when we stand at the seashore and we start looking straight up to an infinite area, it appears that the sky and water is meeting. Now that is the point where we all know in reality sky and water never meets, but it appears to our naked eye that it is meeting. It is only because beyond that level, beyond that much area, our eyes are not able to view what is after that. There is a possibility there may be some ships going from there may be some small boats sailing, or maybe a bridge or something, which our eye is not able to capture. Why? Because we have a particular area, a stretch to which our eye can view. So the point from which I cannot see, beyond which I cannot see, becomes my horizon. So in this case, my horizon will be here. So this point becomes my horizon. And these 2 points becomes my vanishing point, which becomes my reference point for my drawing. So now I know that my entire drawing will be between this. Now first I had drawn here. Let's assume I'm not able to view beyond this. So my vanishing points will be here. Vanishing points are used as reference points for our drawing. Now after we have understood what is a perspective in general and how are vanishing points used or how they are seen on the horizon line, let us understand how many kinds of perspectives are there. There are basically 6 points of perspective, but as I said in the beginning that I will be focusing on the basic perspective over here in this video, and we'll go in detail in my next video. So in this I'm just going to discuss about 1 point perspective, 2 point perspective and 3 point perspective. Now the first 3 point perspective, which is majorly used in our drawings, are 1 point perspective, 2 point perspective and 3 point perspective. Now always remember, perspective and vanishing points are directly related to each other. That is why 1 point perspective will have 1 vanishing point, 2 point perspective will have 2 VPs, and 3 point perspective will have 3 VPs. VPs over here means vanishing points. So they are directly related to each other. Now what is a 1 point perspective? Now if I have to go in detail about what is a 1 point perspective, let me get a paper over here. And now let's assume this is my horizon. Let me take a darker pencil. Now this is my horizon and I am standing here. Mostly the point to be kept in mind over here is mostly 1 point perspective is formed or is seen whenever we have parallel lines. Mostly when it comes to parallel lines. Now how does this work? We all know that when we have 2 parallel lines, let's assume this is a street, a road, school corridor, parking lot or railway tracks. Anything that has got parallel lines. Now we all know that a road will move straight. So a road will always move straight. They never meet because we know that parallel lines don't meet. We have learned this in mathematics also. But to our naked eyes, they meet. You all can try this as an experiment. If you're going to a school or if you're walking on a street or if you get a chance, to stand in the middle of a railway track, please don't try that. if there's a train coming or something, that can be hazardous and disaster. All jokes apart. So if you go and stand on a corridor, a long corridor, or a long street which is going straight, we all have traveled on road trips, on highways, national highways, state highways, whatever. And when we are driving or when we are walking through those areas, the roads in reality is parallel, is straight. But when we look at it, it appears as if, it is meeting at some point. Right? And then it appears to make an X. It appears to crisscross. So the point at which it intersects, this becomes my vanishing point. Now since these are parallel lines, they are moving side by side, so they start coming in this direction, absolutely straight to my eye level. So my horizon moves here. Okay, now if I move from this place to this place, a little bit towards my right, my horizon will not change because my eye level has not changed. I have just moved 2 steps or 5 steps on the other side. What will change is my vanishing point. My vanishing point will now be in straight to this. The roads are still there. The roads haven't moved their position, only I have moved my position. So now my road is going to appear something like this. So it becomes in this direction. Right? Now if I move little behind, I come here. Now this is where I'm standing. My horizon comes a little bit in front. If I move here, my horizon moves up. So if I change my position going forward or backward, that is when my horizon also moves forward and backward with me. But if I move sideways, then my vanishing point moves only. But if I move forward, backward, then my VP as well as perspective, that is as well as my horizon along with VP goes forward or backward. But if I just move sideways without changing my position, moving up or down or forward or backward, only change that happens in the VP. So this is 1-point perspective. Let's move to 2-point perspective. Now what is a 2-point perspective? In 2-point perspective, the basic difference when you see from a layman's eye, as we saw in 1-point perspective, it was moving like an A. So I was standing here, or the person was standing here, and it moved in this direction, in an A direction from me, making a triangle of this kind. In 2-point perspective, I have 2 vanishing points. I have VP1, I have VP2. And here, the movement happens in a V direction. This is the basic difference that is seen from a layman's eye. Now, if I come to the way we draw, that means all the artists draw, let's assume this is my horizon. And I have a building over here, let's say a mall or something. Please excuse my lines. All right. Let this also have some stairs so that the way we walk up to the mall gate, and let's say this is the door of the mall, and some random windows. And I am standing here at this point. Now from here, I can obviously see the entire mall. We all know a human eye works in this direction. So what I'm going to do is, I'll see till what level I can, or till what area I'm able to view my eyes are taking me to view it. So I get my two vanishing points, one here, one here, wherever it intersects with my horizon, till wherever I can see. And so let's assume that we have some fences over here, you know, the boundary wall kind of a thing. So till wherever I'm able to see the boundary wall of the mall. Let's assume this is a mall. So now this is where my center line goes, and when I say center line, this is basically my eye level. Based on that, this is my horizon, and here I have VP1 and VP2. So VP1 and VP2. Now what we have to remember is I get my two vanishing points, and this is my work. How do we draw? I'll show it later. First, let's just understand what is 1 point, 2 point and 3 point perspective, and how the VPs are related to each other. This is how it works on a 2 point perspective. Now if I have to move to a 3 point perspective, which is mainly used for a high-rise building, tall towers, example Burj Khalifa, Statue of Liberty, Qutub Minar, anything for which we don't see like this, but we literally, you know, go absolutely, we have to turn our head totally 180 degree. Eiffel Tower in Paris. These are all some examples which are really, really high rise. In this case, what happens is, let's say this is my tower that I'm gonna draw. Okay, and it just keeps on going high and high. Now in this, what happens is, I'm standing here, I can properly see till here, but this area, in order to view this area, I have to turn my head absolutely 180 degree, which is not so easy, because we are no more infants where the bones are really flexible. So what do? We move a little back. And as we move back, a very funny thing happens, which is often depicted in our drawing. We bend our body a little bit towards behind. So if say I was standing like this, I bend my body a little bit behind, I tilt myself, I bend myself, I go back, and the building which was standing straight appears to go like this. So my body moves here and the building moves here. That is when I am able to see the tip of the building. So what do we do in this case? How do we draw this? So I know that I am able to see till here. I get my horizon here. I am able to see till here. I get my two VPs here. I get VP1, I get VP2, and I have my straight view. And at this point in the center line, based on my eye level, I put an imaginary vanishing point, which we get after we have tilted ourselves behind and the building goes like this, when we can see this. So I get VP1, 2, and 3, and this helps me in drawing my high-rise towers. So this is how basically perspective 1, perspective 2 and perspective 3, that is 1 point perspective, 2 point perspective, 3 point perspective, they are directly related to vanishing point 1, vanishing point 2 and vanishing point 3. Now let us see with these illustrations how they are drawn. Now the first example is of vanishing point 1. Now in this one, this is our line of horizon. This is where the person is standing, a straight line. And from the person's eye view, It's coming till here. Now this is where my eye is meeting the horizon. So this becomes my vanishing point because it is assumed that, and it is understandable that beyond this I'm not able to see anything unless I move my position front or back, as I had explained initially. So now what happens, I see there is a row, there's a street, and we have some trees. Now the funniest thing that starts happening over here is a road which is actually supposed to be parallel appears as if it is meeting the vanishing point. Now the important thing to note in each vanishing point drawing and in a perspective drawing is we have to keep in mind that all the parallel lines from different sides will come and meet the vanishing point. So my first road comes and meets over here. Same goes over here. Same goes over here. Now I can also see a house in this corner. Even note this, even the house, which are generally straight, but in most of the drawings you guys would have seen that the houses are slanting or tilted, or the roof is straight but the ground is not straight. It's not because the ground is upside down or something. It's just because the way in which the viewer is looking at it and is drawing. So pay attention here. The roof of the house is absolutely parallel to the horizon. But as we move downwards, each line comes and meets the vanishing point. Each line comes and meets the vanishing point. Even the line of door, even the line of windows, every single line will come and meet the vanishing point. Another interesting thing to note over here is the trees. As you can see, these two trees, 1, 2, 3, 4, they are very prominently visible. They are very big because I'm standing right over here. The person is standing right over here. And anything that is right in front of us appears bigger and prominent, and each and every detail can be seen very clearly because it is clearly in front of us. Hence, to understand the details becomes easier. So that's why this 1, 2, 3 is very, very clearly seen and big. But as it is moving away from our eyes, it is becoming smaller and smaller and more invisible. So the size of it reduces, not because they are smaller in size, but as they are far from us, from our eyesight, from this point, it is really far, hence it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. Let's assume if this house was here, we would have been able to see a nice bigger house with more details in it. So this is how, while drawing a one-point perspective, we have to keep in mind that every single line will come and meet the vanishing point. Even if you see the mountains, it's all going in a triangle. Everything is coming and meeting the vanishing point. And that is very important. Move to two-point perspective. Now this is an illustration of two-point perspective of a simple house. Even in this, we have two perspective, we have two vanishing points. One is here, one is here. Person is standing here. I get a straight line over here. And I start drawing my house. I have to again keep in mind that each and every line of my house meets the vanishing points on both the sides to get a proper 3D shape of my house, or a hut, or a building, or a mall, whatever we are drawing. So over here, if you see this line from where I want my house to be drawn, this is the tip of the house, this is the front of the house which I see. This line goes and meets my VP1. Here again it meets VP1. And this line meets VP2. This meets VP2. I know how big I want my house to be, and how do we get that? That whether my door, how much ever I can see the house, but I have to make sure that this point from the center line of the house which I'm able to view, this should come and meet VP2 here. From here it comes and meet VP1. Same goes with the doors and windows. Another important thing that we have to keep in mind, whether it comes to 1-point perspective or 2-point perspective or 3-point perspective, all vertical lines are parallel to each other. So like this, this and this, and all horizontal lines have to meet VPs on its side. on the respective side mainly. Remember, it is the vertical lines which makes it look straight, and it gives a shape to it and a form to it, and it is the slanting or the horizontal lines which actually makes it look going and moving towards the 3D appearance or a realistic appearance of our drawing. Now if I move to the example of my 3-point perspective, as I was mentioning, that the buildings look as if they're going down. Like this was my pencil standing and now it is going like this because I have moved here. I'm able to see till here absolutely straight. I have VP1, VP2, and here is my imaginary VP3. As you can see, all the lines are meeting the VP3. All my vertical lines, so all vertical slant lines meets VP3. All horizontal slant lines meets VP1 or VP2 depending on its own side and respective sides. So this is very important for us to understand. Here, so what we do basically over here is we make another vanishing point, which is an imaginary vanishing point, which works as 1-point perspective when I'm standing here and I'm assuming that from here everything is coming and meeting over here. So if you see vanishing point 3, to understand in a layman's word or in a very general terms, is a combination of VP1 and VP2. 1-point perspective and 2-point perspective brought in together, combined together, and getting my third VP or 3-point perspective or the third point of perspective not on the horizon but way above the horizon, so that I can capture something which is not so easily seen with my normal eye level, for which I have to move either a little back and slant myself or stay in that position and turn my body towards a little bit backward. So these are the 3 basic examples of 3 different perspective, 1-point, 2-point and 3-point. This is something we should remember while we are drawing. A very interesting point, which is distortion in perspective. Now if VPs are too close, distortion in our drawing has to appear. It is very much understandable. Like everything appears to be very hazy, very congested, clumsy, not very clear. So that is one of the reasons we make sure that the VPs are far apart. If my VPs are here, don't you think everything over here, if I have to fit in, it will look so confusing and distorted. Nothing will be so clear. Take an example of a rainy day. When you're drawing something rainy, something foggy, do you see anything clearly? Well, it has been often difficult for me to get a clear view in that case. So that is what happens when my vanishing points become too closer. So that's why we try to get a vanishing point far apart, and we follow the rule of 60% of the world needs to be drawn, meaning we follow the rule of 60% rule in perspective. Now what is the 60% rule in perspective? If you remember, I spoke about picture plane. This is my picture, this is my area in which I'm going to draw, and now this is where I'm going to draw. This is my picture plane, as I mentioned, and I have this is my line, but I can see I am standing here. I can see till here. I eliminate this much area, basically removing the 20% from both sides. Why? Because to look at this place, I'll have to turn my head here and I'll have to even turn my head here. Rather, what I'm doing is I'm trying to remain within the area which is clearly visible to my naked eye without turning my head this side or that side. So, as we mentioned, a human eye can see like this, but if I have to see this side and this side, I will have to turn my head this side. I'll have to turn my head this side. So I'm not going to do that. I will leave out the area where I have to turn my head in order to see, because the moment I turn my head this side, my this side view becomes here. And the moment I turn my head this side, my this side view becomes here. So I do not want to disturb my normal view, my general view, which is easy when I get a V-shaped formed from here. So what I do is I remove this extra part from my drawing and I concentrate on this 60%. So 20% from here, 20% from here. It is just an assumption that we're removing 20% and we call it a 60% rule perspective, which is very important. So then in this entire picture plane, this plays the role of negative space and this becomes my positive space, which will have the middle ground, foreground and a bit of background also. Though this will be majorly the part of background, but this may have a slight background touch over here, and this becomes my middle ground and foreground where my positive space appears. I hope we were able to get a basic understanding about what the perspective is. Just let me run through it. So what we learned today was the 3 different kind of perspectives, that is 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective and 3-point perspective, and how it is directly related to the 3 vanishing points, and what are the different examples, and how while we draw them, each line that we draw are directly coming and meeting with your perspective, with your vanishing points, and why is it important that they have to meet the vanishing points. So I hope I was able to give you a basic understanding about what perspective is. Now, if you like the video or if you have any questions, you can always post it in the comment section, or you can always write in a message to us at on the comment section itself. And if you really like the video, please do click on the like button and share with your friends and family too, so that we all can understand and slowly we all can learn how to become more and more creative with the basic and proper understanding of artwork. So thank you very much for watching this video. Do subscribe and like our videos. Have a great day. Bye bye.